Krishna, Krishna, ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरो मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपं कदा मह्यं ददाति पदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतां श्रीगुरु वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपां साग्रजातां सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं तावदेकं तावद्भूतं परिजनान्तरेकं कृष्ण चैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नामे नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरवे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्ते तप्तकांचने गौरांगी श्रीराधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च Parivaranam Pavaribhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Devata Devara. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna. So we were discussing Nector of Devotion. We could complete chapter 2 last time. So now we discuss chapter number 3. So chapter number 3 is eligibility of a candidate in accepting devotional service. So eligibility of the candidate for accepting devotional service. So last time we discussed this, that attraction for devotional service is the cause for execution for devotional service. And how one executes devotional service? Because of the attraction for devotional service. Now, at first place, how the attraction for devotional service comes? That happens by Agyat Sukurati, by the mercy of the great souls. One gets this attraction for devotional service by unknowingly performing devotional service, and then he executes devotional service. So same thing Srila Prabhupada also writes here, that eligibility of the candidate for accepting devotional service. So anyone can begin devotional service if he has this piety. This is not material piety, this is Agyat Sukriti. Anyone unknowingly performed some devotional service, anyone unknowingly executed some devotional service by the causeless mercy of devotee. So then he can begin devotional service. So Srila Prabhupada says here, on the account of association with Mahatmas or the great soul, 100% in the devotional service of the Lord, one may attain a little bit of attraction for Sri Krishna. But at the same time, one may remain very much attached to fruitive activities and material sense enjoyment, and not be prepared to undergo the different types of renunciation. Such a person, if he has unflinching attraction to Krishna, becomes an eligible candidate for discharging devotional service. So anyone who has little attraction for Krishna, although he may still be attached to sense gratification, although still he may not be detached from material things, but then he can begin his devotional service. That's the akama sarva kama va moksha kama dhardehi. Whether one has material desire or not, he can take up devotional service. It is confirmed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that only the fortunate person, and by the mercy of both bona fide spiritual master and Krishna, that one gets devotional service. And then Srila Prabhupada is quoting this verse from Bhagavatam 11 Canto. But my dear Uddhava, only by the exceptional fortune does someone become attracted to me. So this exceptional fortune is Agyat Sukurati. And even if one is not completely detached from fruitive activities, or is not completely attached to devotional service, still such service is quite quickly effective. So even unknowing devotional service. So there are 3 stages. One is when someone performs unknowingly devotional service, then that gives them Agyat Sukriti. And second is where one performs devotional service with knowledge, then that brings purification. And third stage is where one performs devotional service for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, that awakens our love for the Supreme Lord. So when devotional service is done unknowingly, that will give Agyat Sukriti. When devotional service is done with knowledge, that will bring purification. And devotional service is done for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, that will awaken love in our heart. So anyone can begin if he has this piety, this fortune, this Agyat Sukurati, although he may be still attached and although still he may not be detached from material things. So now, there are 3 categories of devotees which are described in the scripture. So now, how much one will make spiritual advancement, how much one will take up to the process of Vedic sadhana bhakti, depends on two aspects. One is faith in the scriptures, and second is knowledge of the scriptures. Because Vedic sadhana bhakti, what is the impetus for a Vedic sadhaka bhakta? That is the instruction of Guru Sadhu Shastra. So in one way, scriptures. So now depending upon how much faith and knowledge he has, as per that he can take up Vedic sadhana bhakti. Anyone can begin sadhana bhakti, but how much he will sincerely take up that sadhana bhakti will depend upon how much knowledge and faith he has. So this knowledge is about the scriptures and faith in the scriptures. How much Shastriya Shraddha he has, that is, this faith is a Shastriya Shraddha. And then how much knowledge of the scriptures he has. So when one has a Jnat Sukriti and he gets attracted to devotional service or begins devotional service, that is the first aspect is that Sarvanam. He meets a spiritual master and he hears from him. So that is the aspect of getting knowledge from the spiritual master. And then depending upon the knowledge and depending upon the faith, Shastriya faith, Shraddha in the scriptures, as per that he advances in the spiritual life. As per that he takes the process of Vedic sadhana bhakti seriously. So there are three categories which are mentioned: Uttamadhikari, Madhyamadhikari, and Kanishtadhikari. So anyone can begin, but then how fast they will go ahead, how much nicely they will practice Vedic sadhana bhakti will depend upon their knowledge and their faith. So after beginning devotional service, how nicely one takes shelter of the spiritual master, how nicely he hears from the spiritual master, how nicely he cultivates his knowledge and faith will determine how fast or how sincerely or seriously he is taking up the process of Vedic sadhana bhakti. So in one way, the qualification to become a nice Vedic sadhana bhakta depends on how much knowledge and faith one has. The more one has knowledge and faith, then that much he is qualified for Vedic sadhana bhakti. Because he has that knowledge and faith that I need to follow, this is mentioned in the scriptures, this is good for me. So then accordingly he'll be serious about Vedic sadhana bhakta. So in these three categories, the topmost is Uttamadhikari. So he has a strong faith and strong spiritual knowledge. So Prabhupada says he is very expert in the study of relevant scriptures, and he is also expert in putting forward arguments in terms of those scriptures. And then Prabhupada describes his faith. He understands perfectly that the ultimate goal of life is to attain the transcendental loving service of Krishna. And he knows Krishna is the only object of worship and love. He attains some faith in the scriptures by understanding with all the reasons and arguments. So Uttamadhikari has a strong faith and a strong scriptural knowledge. He can even defeat other people when it comes to establish some philosophical truth, because he has that level of knowledge. And he has strong faith that this life is meant only for surrendering to the Supreme Lord. Only object of love, only person worthy to surrender is the Supreme Lord. He has that faith. That is Uttamadhikari. And then second category is Madhyamadhikari, where he has a strong faith, but is somewhat lacking in scriptural knowledge. So Prabhupada says he is not very expert in arguing on the strength of revealed scripture, but he has firm faith in the objective. So this is Madhyamadhikari. So they know that this is right, but then they can't defeat others. They can't convince others. They can't argue with others. They don't have that level of knowledge. But they know that what I am doing is correct. And they have that faith. And then Kanishtadhikari. So those who are Kanishtadhikari, they are the least qualified to perform Vedic sadhana bhakti because they have weak faith and weak knowledge. So their faith also is weak. Kanishtadhikari is very easily they get swayed away. If some Baba is there in Vrindavan who becomes more famous, then Kanishtadhikari will get swayed away. So he is so famous. So so many people are going to him. Virat Kohli also goes. So I will also go to him like that. So they have weak faith. They don't understand the scriptures very nicely. And they have weak scriptural knowledge also. They can't be rigid in their Vedi sadhana bhakti practices. They fully have not understood the scriptural knowledge. So that's why they can very easily be swayed by the superior argument. So that is Kanishta Vikara. So who can begin devotional service? Anyone can begin devotional service, provided he has that fortune, that piety, that satyasupurity. And how seriously one will take up to the very sadhana bhakti depends on his knowledge and faith. How much knowledge he has cultivated, how much faith he has. That's why one of the symptoms of a good Vedi sadhaka bhakta is how good he is in hearing and how good he is in reading. Means how good he is in cultivating knowledge. That's one of the important aspects of Vedi sadhaka bhakta. If somebody is not good in hearing, then naturally he will not be a good Vedi sadhaka. Although he may do physical services, but then he will not have that qualification to practice Vedi sadhana bhakti. So good sarvanam is one of the important qualification of Vedi sadhaka bhakta. We see Srila Bhaktivedanta Sri Thakur, when he was asked that this Abhay Babu is very nice and you should give initiation to him. And then he was quoting many qualifications that Abhay Babu is good in collection, Abhay Babu is good in convincing people, Abhay Babu is good in making relationships, and so many things. But then Srila Bhaktivedanta Sri Thakur said, I will give him initiation because I noticed that he likes to hear. Like that. So for a Vedi sadhaka bhakta, this quality of saranam is very important. In case of Narada Muni, also maid servant son, he also said, because I heard submissively in the association of great Bhakti Vedantists, so because of that, this love for the Lord awakened in my heart. Like that. So Vedi sadhaka bhakta means he is very pakka about cultivating knowledge and faith. So how one cultivates knowledge? By hearing and by reading. In one way, our reading also is hearing because Srila Prabhupada spoke it. So he is good in hearing. That's one of the hallmark qualities of a Vedi sadhaka bhakta, how good he is in hearing. And then how good he is in cultivating his faith and protecting his faith. Especially in Kali Yuga, we see sometimes people with half knowledge or people with their polluted perception, sometimes they may speak ill about Vaishnavas. So we as devotees, we should not allow our faith to be affected by hearing something which we are not supposed to. Especially today, because of internet, so many things are put up and everyone has a freedom to just speak anything. Is it not? Practically any Tom, Dick, Harry can make a video and upload on the YouTube. It is very unfortunate. And sometimes people have their personal grievances. Sometimes they have personal bitterness, and then they want to speak, and they want that bitterness to be known by everyone. We have to be very careful that we should protect and preserve our faith. Our Jayanand Prabhu, he had this quality that if somebody would come to him to speak ill about some Vaishnava, he would close his ears and run away. I don't want to hear like that. Same quality was there with which Goswami. Raghunath Goswami also, if anyone would come and he would say, for me, he's a Vaishnava, that is enough. No more. Nothing more I want to hear. Like that. We have to know actually people have certain understanding and then they will speak. So we should not allow our faith to be affected by hearing something which we are not supposed to. We should not allow our faith to come down like that. So Vedi sadhaka bhakta means how better we become to the extent we cultivate knowledge and faith. Like that. So we should try our best to read scriptures very nicely, so that we have a very good understanding about certain things. And then we cultivate faith nicely. And we should not have idealistic expectations. Gaurav was sharing in one lecture that only two things are perfect in ISKCON. One is Bhaktivedanta purport and second is chanting of the holy names. Apart from these two, managerially there will be some flaws. There is none. Absolute management does not exist. Absolute truth exists. If you are thinking that there can be absolute management, very difficult. So, His Holiness Guru Prasad Maharaj is telling that this is one problem. Sometimes what happens, like there are spiritual masters and then there are disciples. So now spiritual master is speaking some managerial thing. Disciple takes it as an absolute thing. But management cannot be absolute. So even disciples have to be mature that spiritual truths can be absolute. Like now suppose respective spiritual master told certain managerial thing. Now Zero decided something else, or global body of Vaishnavas decided something else. The particular disciple will feel that सब deviant है, मेरे गुरु के खिलाफ जा रहे हैं. Correct? One has to have little maturity. Management is management. You know, everyone has opinion and majority will be decided. That's how things go. Like that. So because of immaturity or because of hearing from wrong person, we actually decrease our faith. We should have maturity. Great souls also, they will have some managerial proposal, managerial project, and there may be some flaw. There is no system which does not have flaw. Managerial system. Like that. Any even great souls also may launch the managerial system, there will be flaw. Srila Prabhupada started this life patronship. There are flaws. Any system started by any great soul, managerial system will have certain flaws because it is in the material world. But if we are not mature, then we may affect our faith. Like that. We have to know what is absolute is Bhaktivedanta purport, chanting of the holy name of the Lord, this process of pure devotion service. This is absolute. And managerial things sometimes they change also. Certain thing for now may be very good. Then after 5 years, same thing may not be good. And then one may have to change it like that. So we have to protect actually our knowledge and faith, especially in Kali Yuga, it is most important. Kali Yuga is the age of gossip. You know, from the time this mobile has come now, free, any number of hours you can talk. And people have this habit of talking about others, talking about others, talking about others. And because of this habit, what happens? You know, the people faith get affected. So this is not good. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, why one wants to talk about others? To establish oneself superior to them. So inside there is a subtle anartha that, you know, I am better than him. That's why the moment we find or we get to know the fault of someone, then there is a tendency to spread it. Because we feel subtle rasha, subtle happiness that see, finally something is found in that Vaishnava, which may not be true also, but at least he heard or he got to know something. So this is very dangerous like that. So we have to know that for very sadhaka bhakta, our wealth is the knowledge which we have and the faith which we have. So regular reading and hearing is of prime importance for a very sadhaka bhakta, otherwise he cannot continue. His fuel is knowledge and faith. And if he is not doing regular reading and hearing, then he cannot continue. And that's why we see even good devotees, when they are in association of devotees, they are very nice, very submissive, very responsible, very much looking forward to spiritual life. But same devotees, when they go out of association and they compromise reading, hearing, same become fully materialistic. Why? Because fuel is knowledge and faith. Like that. So you have to be very careful that I protect my faith and I cultivate knowledge. So have maturity to protect your faith. Know that management is different, spiritual life is different. And know that everyone has some shortcoming. So there is no point in hearing about somebody's shortcoming. And I am not responsible to, I am not the authority to correct them out. So I have to preserve my spiritual life, I have to preserve my faith. So there is no point in hearing about somebody. So one has to be very careful. Many devotees, sometimes they have faith, but then they hear something here and there, and then their faith goes down. Once Prabhupada's disciples, they came to Mayapur, and Prabhupada was, actually Prabhupada never had any feeling with God presence. That is the reason when Prabhupada started movement in America, he wrote letter that now all of you come and take lead. And but then they were thinking that the Swamiji, they were not having faith that the Swamiji will be successful. And then after getting success, when Prabhupada came to India, he took all his disciples along with himself to Gaudiya Math. And he stayed in Gaudiya Math. But there, what he saw, that the God brothers, they started speaking to the disciples of Prabhupada about Prabhupada. And they started saying he is a Swamiji businessman and he knows some tricks. And that's why he has fooled all of you. He does not have much knowledge about the scripture. Like that, they started speaking. And then the disciples came to Prabhupada and they informed, and Prabhupada became so unhappy. And then Prabhupada said that now we'll not stay, we'll get out. And then Prabhupada said that because all of you have heard this, the car has come in your faith now. Something like that. Prabhupada said, the tint has come in your faith. Actually, hearing itself is bad. Now, although one may explain, although Prabhupada may logically explain, but still it takes a lot of time to repair that faith. Like that. So hearing itself is condemned in the scriptures. That's why Shastra says, even if you hear the criticism, that also becomes offense. It's not only that you criticize, even hearing. That's why Haridas Thakur, when was beaten up in marketplace, he says, this all is happening because I heard the blasphemy of the holy name from Gopal Chakravarti. Like that. So we have to be very careful why to hear like that. And see, it is very easy to speak ill of others. It is very easy to find a fault with others. One thing is that everyone has shortcomings. Even the person who is speaking, he also has shortcomings. Is it not? No person is Paramahansa not having any fault. Correct? Everyone has, right? Second thing is, it is easy to speak fault of others, but then we should see their sacrifice, we should see their services, we should see how much they have done for Srila Prabhupada. Is it not? You see Prabhupada disciples, how much they did. Now we may speak ill of them, but they were the ones who sacrificed everything. Even if they changed ashram or sannyas or whatever, but you see the situation also, no? When they were 19-year-old, they were given sannyas. तो आपको 19 साल की उम्र में डंडा पकड़ा देंगे कितना मुश्किल है करेक्ट but they surrendered to Prabhupada and they so much sacrificed wherever Prabhupada wanted they just went like that. Now we can't have that level of surrender as they had like that, and Prabhupada is ready to take the responsibility, but then unfortunately some people they take out something and then they speak. That is not good. Like that. So we have to be very careful actually. Anyone who has practiced spiritual life, Krishna is very much inclined to him. And it becomes often to speak ill of him. Like that. So we have to protect our faith. To the extent our faith and our knowledge, they are there. To that extent, we will keep going ahead as a Vedic Sarkar. But if these two are affected, then it's very difficult to continue as a Vedic Sarkar. So these three categories are there, Kanishta, Madhyama and Uttama. So Uttama, he has a strong faith and a strong knowledge. Madhyama, he has a strong faith, but he can't defeat others in opinion. And Kanishta has a weak faith and weak knowledge. So now this now Prabhupada he speaks from Bhagavad Gita. So Kanishta Adhikari means the neophytes. So he says there are 4 kinds of neophytes. So these four are Arthati, Jigyasu, and Jnani. So these are the four kinds of neophytes who can practice very sadhana bhakti, and they can be elevated by the association of pure devotee. So it says Arthati, Jigyasu, Jnani. Like so, one who desires wealth, one who is distressed, one who is inquisitive, and one who is wise. They can begin devotion service and come to the Lord for relief in the matter of their respective self-satisfaction. Right? तो ये जो चार कैटेगरी हैं अर्थात जिज्ञासु ज्ञानी, ये कनिष्ठ अधिकारी के चार कैटेगरीज बताए गए हैं प्रभुपाद जी. He is saying that neophyte, there are four categories of neophyte, अर्थात जिज्ञासु ज्ञानी, and they can begin devotion service as per what relief they want in the matter of their respective self-satisfaction. And then Prabhupada says that just because somebody is distressed does not make him qualified to begin devotion service. You know, Prabhupada writes that there are cases where someone is distressed and then he becomes more antagonistic, more away from God, or he even becomes atheist. So in their case, they are also having a Jnana Sukriti along with all this. So one is Artha, that Arthati Jigyasu Jnani. So one category is that he is desiring wealth or he is desiring opulence. But why he is coming to God? Because he has a Jnana Sukriti. There are other people also who want wealth, but not all of them they come to God. Then there is a category distressed. Why he is coming to God? Because he has a Jnana Sukriti. And these all four categories are the devotional, they are beginning devotional service and their level of neophytes or kancha. But then by the association of devotees, they can improve. Now out of these four categories, especially those who are wise, jnani, they are most dear to the Lord, as the Lord says. Why? Because only they don't have any material desire. See, in case of Artha, Artharthi and Jigyasu. So Artha and Artharthi, so naturally they want relief from distress and they want wealth, they have material desire. And those who are Jigyasu, they also have some questions and they want answers of those questions. But one who is a Jnani is looking for absolute truth. He is looking at what is the purpose of my life. What should I do? What should I not do? Among these four Krishnas is who are most dear to me? The last one, that is Jnani. Why? Because they don't have material desire. So among these four, Jnani actually becomes eligible for pure devotion service. Why? Because he does not have material desire. Other, they are qualified, they can do very sadhana bhakti along with their material desire. But Jnani becomes free from the bodily concept of life, and that's why he becomes eligible for pure devotion service. So now see, we discuss three things. First is, who is eligible for devotion service? Anyone, provided he has a Jnana Sukriti. Now, what is the eligibility for practicing Vedi sadhana bhakti after beginning? That is knowledge and faith. What is eligibility for practicing pure devotion service? That is no material desire, no bodily concept of life. So these are three levels where eligibility is mentioned. So such beginners can be elevated to the second class or first class platform to be associated with pure devotee. And then Prabhupada gives example like Dhruva Maharaj. So Dhruva Maharaj was wanting a kingdom greater than his grandfather also. Right? So in one way, he is having a material desire. But then he came in touch with Narada Muni, and then because of his association, he became pure devotee. Right? So he came with this desire, and he came because he had some piety also. And then by the association of Narada Muni, he was elevated to the platform of pure devotion service. Same way, another example is mentioned is Gajendra. He was distressed. See, there are so many people who are in difficulties, but they don't turn to God. But why Gajendra turned? Because he had piety. He had Jnana Sukriti. So he turned to God in that situation. And then Krishna came and he became a pure devotee. Then the four Kumaras, they come in the category of Jnani. And we see that how they got attracted to the devotion service by having darshan of the Lord, smelling the fragrance of Tulsi. And those who are the sages in Naimacharanya, they are in the category of Jigyasu. So they got elevated by the association of Srila Sutta Goswami. So thus they achieved association of a pure devotee and became pure devotee themselves. So that is the way of elevating oneself in whatever condition one may be. If he is fortunate enough to associate with pure devotees, then very quickly he is elevated to the second class or first class platform. So Kanishta, from Kanishta, how one can go to Madhyama or Uttama? By having association of pure devotees. And that point Prabhupada is saying that these four categories which are mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, Arthati, Jigyasu, Jnani, Krishna is saying these four they come to me. So one may feel, oh, then these four are the eligibility to take up the devotional service. No. Krishna is saying these four they come to me, but why they are coming? Because they have a Gyat Sukriti. And that's what Prabhupada says, without pious activities, if a man is in a distressed condition, he becomes an agnostic, a communist or something like that. Because he does not firmly believe in God, he thinks that he can adjust his distressed condition by totally disbelieving in him. Like that. So why? Because they have piety, that's why they come. Not just because they are distressed, not just because they are wanting something in their life. Like that. So Lord Krishna, however, explained that out of these four neophytes, one who is Jnani, wise, is most dear to me. Why? Because he is a wise man, if he is attached to Krishna, is not seeking an exchange of material benefits. See, why he is the most dear to Krishna? Because he does not want anything in return. See, those who are wanting money, they want money. Those who are in distress, they want relief. And those who are Jigyasu, they want answers. But those who are Jnani, they don't want anything in exchange from the Lord. And that's why he becomes very dear to Supreme Lord. A wise man who becomes attached to Krishna does not want any return from him, either in the form of relieving distress or gaining money. This means that from very beginning, his basic principle of attachment to Krishna is more or less love. So that's why he is very dear to the Supreme Lord, and he becomes eligible for pure devotional service. Anya Abhilashita Shunyam. And then, although such a wise man is very dear to the Lord, others are also accepted as very magnanimous. Why? Because they are coming to Krishna. See how Lord is so grateful. Lord is, just because somebody is coming, Lord is very happy. चलो पैसा मांगने आया, मेरे पास तो आया, इधर उधर नहीं गया. Right? देवी देवताओं के पास नहीं गया, अमेरिका में नहीं गया, दुबई में नहीं गया, भारत में ही जो है वृंदावन धाम में आया है. So Lord becomes so happy just because somebody is turning to him. Like in the Prithu Maharaj section, we read that verse that how Lord is very anxious to bring living entities back home, back to Godhead. And for that purpose, he sends his pure devotees as his representative to claim or to bring back the living entity. So as such, the Jnanis are very dear, but the Lord is very grateful. Lord is grateful that they are coming to him. Like that. So the distressed and the person wanting money, they are in the material concept of life. Because distress and money both are in relationship with the body. One who is inquisitive may be a little above the distress and the man in need of money, but still he is on the material platform. But a wise man who seeks Krishna knows perfectly well that he is a spiritual. Who is a Jnani who is not looking down? He is a Jnani. Jnani means he knows that there is no happiness in the material world. He is not looking down. He wants to come out. He wants to know about the higher truth. Like that. So that's why he is very dear to the Supreme Lord. Yeah, so here also Prabhupada says, to begin devotional service, only qualification is attraction. But to practice pure devotional service, one must be renounced from worldly concepts of life, which we see in case of Jnani. And that's why he becomes eligible for pure devotional service, because he is free from the worldly concept of life. So it can be concluded that the person who is free from the worldly concept of life becomes eligible candidate for pure devotional service. So at three levels we saw eligibility. Who is eligible for devotional service? Anyone who has little Abhyasa, right? And then who is eligible for Vedi sadhana bhakti? Knowledge and faith. To the degree one has knowledge and faith, to that degree he is qualified for Vedi sadhana bhakti. And now who is eligible for pure devotional service? Free from bodily concept of life. So in the four categories which we discussed, which one? Jnana. That is question. And then it is mentioned that those who are pure devotees, means those who give up this bodily concept of life, so they don't desire even liberation also. Where it is mentioned that those who are pure devotees, some says that they don't want bhakti also and mukti also. Anyone who has any desire or aspiration for satisfying his senses by becoming more and more important either in the material sense or in the spiritual sense cannot actually relish the sweet taste of devotional service. And that's why bhakti, mukti, siddhi, kami, sakala, asanta. They always remain asant, miserable, unhappy. But Krishna Bhaktan is calm, ateva, santa. Like, so bhakti means material enjoyment and mukti means to become free from material anxiety. A pure devotee never cared for liberation, and that's why Mahaprabhu is praying to Krishna, my dear son of Nanda, I do not want any material happiness in the shape of any follower. This is which verse? Na dhanam na janam na sundari kavita ma jagreet kame mam janmani janmani sware bhavata bhakti koi. The attention of a pure devotee is so much attracted to the glories of the Lord form pastime that he does not care for mukti. Vilamangal Thakur is saying, if I am engaged in the devotional service unto you, my dear Lord, then very easily can I perceive your presence everywhere. As far as liberation is concerned, I think liberation stands at my door with folded hands waiting to serve me. Right. The pure devotee is so much religious being engaged in the devotional service of the Lord that even mukti is waiting at the door. Okay, aap krupya karke mujhe sweekar kijiye, please accept me. And he says, I don't have time. I'm so busy serving the Lord. Then another, he is quoting from Lord Kapila section where Lord Kapila is saying, my dear mother, my pure devotees are charmed by seeing my different forms, the beauty of my face, the structure of my body so enchanting, my laughing, my pastime, my glance, they appear so beautiful to their minds, they are so much absorbed in my thoughts. Their lives are dedicated fully unto me. Although such people do not desire any kind of liberation or any kind of material happiness, still I give them a place among my associates in the supreme abode. They don't want anything, but then Krishna gives them. Krishna brings them to spiritual world. Like that, many verses are quoted. Here Uddhava is quoting, my dear Lord, for persons who are engaged in your transcendental loving service, there is nothing worth obtaining from dharma, artha, kama, moksha. All the happiness from these different sources can be very easily had by them. In spite of such facilities, my dear Lord, I do not aspire to achieve any such result. My only prayer is that I have unflinching faith and devotion unto your lotus feet. And then further again he is saying, Lord Kapila, that they don't want any other happiness than being engaged in my service. And then finally he's quoting Guru Maharaj. My dear Lord, the transcendental pleasure derived by meditation upon your lotus feet, which is enjoyed by pure devotees, cannot be approached by the transcendental pleasure derived by the impersonalist through self-realization. So how can the fruitive worker who at most can aspire to promotion to the higher heavenly planet understand you? How can they be described as enjoying a happiness similar to the devotee happiness? Like that, those who are pure devotees, they don't want even liberation. They don't have any inspiration for liberation also. So in conclusion, we discussed that only qualification to begin devotional service is the mercy of the Lord or Agya security. Qualification for very sadhana bhakti is knowledge and faith, and qualification for pure devotional service is freedom from the worldly concept of life. And devotee does not want even liberation also, like that. So in our life, especially as very sadhaka bhakta, it is very important that we cultivate these two aspects. One is knowledge and one is faith, like this. So to the degree we are very good in cultivating knowledge and very good in protecting our faith, to that degree we will make a spiritual advancement. That is the reason why Srila Prabhupada very much emphasized these courses like Bhakti Sastri, Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhakti Vedanta, Bhakti Swarupama, so that devotees are deep rooted in our Krishna conscious philosophy. They have that knowledge, they have that faith, they have that conviction that what I am doing is correct. And that faith also increases along with the cultivation of the knowledge. So as devotees, that's why we have to take out quality time to understand this Krishna conscious philosophy. Sometimes many places like you will find shastras, they talk about by association of pure devotees. Like here also it was mentioned that these four types of neophytes can be elevated to the second platform or third platform by the association of pure devotees. Sometimes devotees feel, Prabhuji, how it happens in our case. See, association are of two types, Vani and Vapu. Among them also Vani is more important. And we see how fortunate are we that Srila Prabhupada gave best of his time and maximum of his time in writing Bhaktivedanta purports. And he is available. Srila Prabhupada says, best of me is in my purports. Srila Prabhupada says, the Bhaktivedanta purports are my transcendental ecstasy. So if we understand this, and if you read Srimad Bhagavatam, understanding how Prabhupada is speaking, how much he worked very hard, and in that actually we associate with Srila Prabhupada. So that's why it's very important for us to understand that reading Prabhupada's books is not a normal thing. We are associating with pure devotee by reading Srila Prabhupada's books. And Prabhupada wanted, for that reason he wrote, he gave so much of his time, he extended so that we get opportunity to take his association, and in that way we can make spiritual advancement. And you will see those devotees who are regularly reading Prabhupada's books, they will have a very special spirit to practice also and to preach also. Because that automatically comes by the association of Prabhupada. But somebody who is not regularly reading, then they will have laziness, dullness in their practices also, and they will not have preaching spirit also. So this is one letter which Prabhupada writes, very beautiful. This is from one lecture. Prabhupada says, but in this life, if we develop Krishna consciousness by association of devotees, as Narottam Das Thakur has sung, Tanera Charana Sai Bhakta Sanevas, one's aim of life should be to serve the Acharyas. Acharya Upasanam. Our Acharya in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, the Sri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Sri Ji Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath, the six Goswamis, and if we associate with them, the book Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, if you read regularly, try to understand, this means you are associating with Srila Rupa Goswami directly. And if you act accordingly, then you are serving their lotus feet. Tandera Charanasai Bhakta Saneva. So if you are reading Prabhupada books, we are associating with Prabhupada. And if we are acting accordingly, if you are following what is written by Srila Prabhupada, we are serving his lotus feet. And we see that if somebody is doing like this, then actually he can become a pure devotee like this. So Prabhupada worked so hard so that we can get his association, so that we can understand and make lot of spiritual progress. So what is lacking is in our part that sincerely, seriously, we take up reading of Srila Prabhupada books. And we should read Prabhupada books in a very personal way, that Prabhupada is speaking to me, how much he worked hard to give these books, and how best of Srila Prabhupada is there in his books. Especially in Kali Yuga, to practice spirituality, we cannot understand and we cannot do unless until we read Prabhupada. To practice spirituality in an organization like ISKCON, we cannot do unless until we read Prabhupada. Prabhupada books are actually foundational for everyone in the Hare Krishna movement. And we see Prabhupada how much he worked hard for it. So we have that privilege, we have that opportunity that we can directly associate with Prabhupada and we can follow his instructions, and in that way we can make spiritual progress. Hare Krishna. Prabhupada ki jai. So we'll end here, and next Monday we'll discuss chapter number 4. Yes, any questions or discussion?
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, हम लisten से
Humble obeisance, Prabhu.
प्रभु जी, आपने जो शुरू को दो बताया एलिजिबिलिटीज, उसमें डिफरेंस नहीं समझ आया। आपने बताया कि अज्ञात सुकृति है तो कोई भक्ति स्टार्ट कर सकता है, और नॉलेज एंड फेथ है तो कोई वैदिक साधना भक्ति स्टार्ट कर सकता है। तो जो अज्ञात सुकृति से जो स्टार्ट करेगा वो कौन सी भक्ति है प्रभु जी?
नहीं, हमने बताया था कि एलिजिबिलिटी टू बिगिन डिवोशनल सर्विस क्या है, कुछ नहीं चाहिए, सिर्फ अज्ञात सुकृति चाहिए। लेकिन अभी वेदी साधना भक्ति में कौन किस स्तर की वेदी साधना भक्ति कर सकता है, वो डिपेंड करेगा उसके नॉलेज और फेथ पे। अंडरस्टैंड? बिगिन के लिए सबके लिए कॉमन है, अज्ञात सुकृति चाहिए, कोई भी चालू कर सकता है। लेकिन अब कौन कितनी स्पीड से वेदी साधना भक्ति करेगा, कौन कितना सीरियसनेस से वेदी साधना भक्ति करेगा, तो क्वालिफिकेशन क्या है वेदी साधना भक्ति के लिए कि उसका नॉलेज और फेथ कितना है। और वैसे ही कौन प्योर डिवोशन सर्विस कर पाएगा, जो बॉडली कंसेप्ट से बाहर आ पाएगा, ब्रह्मभूत पसन आत्मा न सुचती न कांक्षति, उस स्तर से फिर वो प्योर डिवोशन सर्विस कर सकता है। क्लियर?
इसका मतलब प्रभु जी हम लोग फिर प्योर डिवोशनल सर्विस मतलब कभी भी नहीं करते हैं। हमको जैसे बताते हैं ना कि हमको प्योर डिवोशनल सर्विस की इच्छा रखनी चाहिए कि जो करें गुरु कृष्ण की प्रसन्नता के लिए करें। तो इसका मतलब हम फिर प्योर डिवोशनल सर्विस नहीं कर रहे हैं कभी, कि हम लोग तो बॉडली कॉन्सेप्ट से ऊपर नहीं है।
हाँ, वो डिपेंड करता है। देखिए, भक्ति में ये 0-1 नहीं होता है। तो हो सकता है कि कुछ हद तक हम प्योर डिवोशनल सर्विस कर रहे हों, जिस हद तक हम निस्वार्थ भाव से भगवान की प्रसन्नता के लिए कुछ सेवा कर रहे हैं। लेकिन ऐसा होता है, जैसे आप देख रहे हैं भागवतम क्लास में हम बैठे होते हैं तो बहुत अच्छा सुन रहे होते हैं, बहुत अच्छा भाव आता है। जैसे ही भागवतम क्लास खत्म होता है तो फिर अगर फीस्ट है तो तुरंत आ जाता है गुलाब जामुन मैं खाऊंगा, रबड़ी मैं खाऊंगा, छोड़ूंगा नहीं। तो वी हैव दो काइंड ऑफ डिफरेंसेस, करेक्ट ना? कई बार हमारा अच्छा भाव रहता है सेवा करने के लिए, कई बार वैसा भाव नहीं रहता है। तो इसलिए हमारे केस में नेचुरली वी आर नॉट प्योर डिवोटी, वी आर ऑन द पाथ ऑफ बिकमिंग प्योर डिवोटी, so it will take time, correct ना?
यस प्रभु जी।
Yes, उसको
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी। प्रभु जी, जैसे आपने वो बताया था कि प्रभुपाद जब अपने डिसाइपल्स के साथ गौड़िया मठ में गए थे तो फिर वहाँ पे प्रभुपाद के गॉड ब्रदर्स ने उनको प्रभुपाद के बारे में बात किया ऐसे करके। तो समटाइम्स प्रभु जी क्या होता है कि सम डिवोटीज दे डू ग्लोरिफिकेशन किसी इवेंट में या फिर फेस्टिवल्स में, तो दे फर्स्ट टेल दैट कि हाउ दैट डिवोटी वाज प्रीवियसली ऐसा था, प्रीवियसली ऐसा था, फिर ऐसा था, फिर नाउ ही इज लाइक दिस एंड लाइक दिस। सो अगर ये जैसे ग्लोरिफिकेशन करते हैं तो इसमें दो क्वेश्चन प्रभु जी की, ऐसा ग्लोरिफिकेशन का तरीका इज इट करेक्ट, और दूसरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि क्या हमें ऐसा ग्लोरिफिकेशन सुनना ये हमारे लिए अच्छा है या नहीं, ऐसा।
ओके, See, it depends now. If he is just a new devotee, so then sometimes such glorification is done in order to speak about the transforming power of bhakti. That ये first year में जो थे ये इनको बहुत difficulty होता था, but now you see in second year how nicely has picked up. Sometimes such glories are done or glorification is done. But somebody who has spent 4 or 5 years in Krishna consciousness, then we don't have to speak like that. अब कई बार होता है कोई डिवोटी है 10 साल पुराना है और कोई उनको ग्लोरीफाई करे, अरे ये जो फर्स्ट ईयर में थे चड्डी पहन के जो है घूमते रहते थे कॉरिडोर में तो वो क्या है, वो उनको कैसा लगेगा, एम्बेरसमेंट हो जाएगा ना। 10 साल
यस
हो
प्लीज।
गया, 20 साल हो गया, तो 1-2 साल में चलता है क्योंकि वो फिर सबको इनकरेजमेंट करता है ना कि भक्ति में कितना ट्रांसफॉर्मिंग पावर है। बट वन somebody has spent 4 or 5 years, then background is not required. We can speak about their devotional qualification. ठीक है?
यस प्लीज,
Okay. Okay, so thank you very much. We'll end here. Prabhupada ki jai.